Pretend for a moment that you wake up one morning to discover that the internet has disappeared. Would this be doomsday for us all? What if you woke up to an unexpected internet breakdown, with no Google Maps to find your way in a strange city, with a credit card unable to pay for your lunch? You could argue that this kind of digital detox would be beneficial. We'd take our eyes off screens and strike up real-life conversations with each other. We'd bring back fax machines and start making notes by hand. The world wouldn't fall apart. In fact, with almost 4 billion people having no access to the internet worldwide, half of humanity wouldn't notice a difference in the short term. You and internet users, you would notice right away. If the internet suddenly flatlined, social media users would start calling each other on the phone, overloading working telecommunication systems. Unless cell phone towers and telephone lines were also shut down. Then you'd go back to writing letters and sending them via post. Forget about wireless file transfers. With no Wi-Fi, you'd have to use a physical cable to connect two computers, or a CD. Could we revive old habits and infrastructure? Some of the consequences resulting from an internetless world would be felt more by certain generations. An 85-year-old grandparent might still be more comfortable using an old-fashioned landline to call their grandchild rather than text them, an activity some people currently partake in dozens, maybe even hundreds, of times daily. So, no texting, no more surfing websites, and of course, say goodbye to social media. Now think about the economy. Banking services largely depend on the internet. E-transfers would be impossible. Your credit and debit card would become a useless piece of plastic. Rethink the way you pay, because e-transfers would be wiped out. People would have to step back to writing their landlord's rent checks. Trillion-dollar losses would be felt by a variety of industries around the world. Countries that rely heavily on the internet to help with their economic growth and stability would drag less tech-savvy countries down with them as trade channels built around the online world collapsed. On top of that, large companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon would go out of business, losing their combined revenue of almost $440 billion. With Google itself having 80,000 full-time staff, hundreds of thousands of people would be left unemployed. Even companies that only rely on the internet as means of advertising would be affected. Developed countries would lose entire industries and face economic crisis. Our paper consumption would skyrocket. As international trade is dependent on the internet, so is the world's transit. With no internet access between airports, planes, ships, trains, and commercial trucking, we'd go back to tracking goods on paper. This would raise the market value of transported products, as it would be more complicated to deliver goods or stores. At least you could still travel. However, you wouldn't have Instagram to share your travel selfies with anymore. But killing the whole internet is harder than just cutting off a couple of submarine cables. The internet is the global network of many other computer networks. It doesn't depend on a single machine. Even if one part of it went offline, others would remain functional. The end of the world as we know it. The internet is not the be-all and end-all of services available to mankind, but its disappearance would instantly change our world as we know it.